I'm CG Meezy, known as the Sifu. I've been making music for a long time, but it's really about the impact, changing lives, impacting our youth, doing better and, really doing the work in the community. So when you listen to my music, that's what you're supporting, people that's doing the work in the community.
So I think one of the things I've been doing with everybody, talking with everybody, is speaking to them about sort of like their creative process and their writing process, their music process, sort of like a origin as well, and everybody I done had in so far, I've like, whether I had conversations, me and Blaine hadn't really had like conversations about music in person, but me and him, we knew each other from growing up and stuff like that. We have friends in common and we have collaborated on songs together. So we like inboxed each other and we sort of had like some type of a rapport built up. Same thing with me and Kilo. I met Kilo like shooting videos for him, you know what I'm saying, when he was still in high school. So I've done shot videos for him, done created some music with him, that had conversations in person with him. So we definitely had a rapport. And then I spoke with Musa, and me and Musa, we don't go back as far as me and Blaine or me and Kilo go back, but we had an event that was here. Musa came and was in the crowd for the event. Me and him sort of got like a rapport from a couple of conversations we've had in person. So I spoke to everybody, that the prior three people, I spoke to them before the cameras have been on, but with me and you, this is like the first time me and you really having any type of like real long conversation. We share like a few messages on Facebook, but not like a real conversation or nothing like that, So I think that's one of the things that I really want to also do too, is like meet somebody and get introduced to somebody as an artist and as a person for the first time, sort of like on camera, and I think that's one of the things that's real unique when you create an art, when you meet somebody else who create and y'all sort of have those first few conversations about the different ways that y'all view creating, the different ways that y'all might get inspired from creating and things like that. And so I think since I just listened to the project that you just put out, and I listened to your music before and different projects you put out before. One of the things I really had the opportunity to do in these past 5 years, where I sort of been on and off with some of the Power Rankings things, is to actually listen to people's music. And I've always been really a fan of A15 artist music. And usually, when you are a fan of somebody's music and you listen to somebody's music, it makes it a little bit easier to do something like this, as opposed to like if you don't really know the person's music, you never listen to that music, you might not necessarily be a fan of that music. And so it makes the conversation a little bit more strenuous. But from listening to your music, from years listening to it from before, listening to the project that you just put out, like you can really hear the growth that you've had in your music, and I can really hear like the care that you put into like crafting your sound and crafting your music. And so tell me some of the people that whether inspired you at the beginning of you making music, that maybe inspire you now while you making music. Like what's some of the main inspirations that you draw from artistic?
Right. So it's really, a lot. My family, that's my number one inspiration.
Okay.
'Cause that's where my foundation is.
Right.
But in the music world, we get inspirations from that as well. So when I first started, I was in my boy LV room, cooking up music. I was, listening to my brother. My brother would play like old J. Cole and old Kanye. I'm talking like the warm up J. Cole.
Right.
That real old J. Cole. And I would try to, resemble my sound after Cole, because that's what my brother liked. So that's what I wanted to be, The older I got, the more I started to find artists that don't care what people think, They genuinely are being themselves, like Jay Electronica, like Golden Child.
Okay.
You know,
I know Jay Electronica better, but I know a little bit of Golden Child.
These are artists that, never really, I like Kodak Black,
Yeah.
and people was wondering why did I like Kodak, because I like the fact that he didn't care what people thought about him, So I resembled that after my art, and I believe that when you make music, you want to tell your story. It's easy to create a narrative, but it's nothing like the genuine person that you listening to and you see their art and you say, nobody else sounds like this.
Right.
This is nobody else's story.
Right.
I was listening to an artist earlier. I'm not going to say a name, but when I was playing it, I was like, this sounds industry. This sounds, made up. It doesn't sound authentic, And when I make music, that's the people that I grew up listening to, like the Chance the Rappers, that those type of artists. I always felt like they were authentic, they were being themselves. So that's my inspiration.